And here we are with Amy Munroe, and she is the sales tax yogi. If you want to know anything about sales tax, and what I discovered is it's used tax, right?
Yes, use. So yeah,
Use. Okay. So
yeah. So most of us, when you're a consumer, when you're a buyer, most of us think of sales tax. And then on the business side, the twin sister of sales tax is use tax.
use tax. Okay. So that's what I'm going to say from now
Yeah,
on, just
sure.
because people don't really know the difference, right? So
Yeah.
what is the latest in sales tax in e-commerce? It is so important, and everybody is so confused about what do we have to pay,
Yeah,
when do we have to pay it, right? So what is the
sure.
newest thing?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's still new, cosmically speaking, right? But it has been 2.5 years, believe it or not, since the state of South Dakota
Wow.
successfully sued the Wayfair company.
Yeah, no, right.
And for having the grand audacity to advertise to South Dakota residents that they don't have to pay sales tax because Wayfair doesn't have physical presence in South Dakota. So, because we only have a few minutes, I won't bore our viewers with the details of the ins and outs of the ruling itself. But 2.5 years later, what I can tell you is that there are 45 states in the United States that actually have sales tax to begin with. 45 states plus DC, I guess. And 43 of them, after 2.5 years, now have Wayfair rules, which is to say economic nexus,
Yes, exactly.
meaning that your economic presence in a state is significant enough that the Supreme Court said that's basically the same as physical presence in a state. And therefore, you have an obligation to collect sales tax from your customers and remit it to the state and local governments where your customers are located.
Exactly. So before it was you had to have your company had to be residing in a state to have to pay that sales tax or the
Más o menos. It was residing, or you had significant like sales presence. So you had a sales force who made visits into a state, or you had an inventory warehouse located in a state. You had
exactly.
physical property there.
Yes.
Or if you were in the business of like leasing copiers, let's say,
Yes.
you had copiers at customers located around the country, right? You had
Okay.
you had some sort of physical, tangible thing or person that existed in a state that established a presence for your company.
Okay. So, but now that is out of the window. We all have Nexus. If
Yeah, and the thing that I caution people on, and just quickly, I said 43 of the 45 states now
yes,
have Wayfair rules. Missouri's is coming. January 1, Missouri will have it. And then the only holdout is the great state of Florida, my home state. They have now 3 times come very, very close to having Wayfair rules. And at the 11th hour, something happens and
yeah.
they decide against it. So, and
Wow.
given what transpired in the last couple of days, I suspect it'll be a while before Florida has Wayfair rules. They will
Okay.
be the lone holdout, I guess. And
I
then on the
always
flip,
thought,
right.
that Texas would be the lone holdout. But who
Well,
would
and on
knew?
the flip side of that, Kansas has the lowest threshold in the country, which is one. um,
No.
yeah, Kansas has been bold enough to say if you sell here, you pay here.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, they're peachy. So, anyhow, so yeah, 2.5 years in, almost all the states have Wayfair rules now.
Yes.
But the thing that I caution people about is to not ignore the traditional physical presence rules that
Yes.
came before June of 2018, because
Yes.
sometimes, especially if you do like fulfillment by Amazon and things like that, even though you haven't crossed a threshold, you might have a presence there.
Yes.
Now, that being said, the other thing of what's the latest and greatest in e-commerce is marketplace rules.
Yes. And what is a marketplace first?
So, a marketplace facilitator is somebody like Amazon,
Wal-
Etsy,
Walmart.
eBay.
Walmart.
Walmart is now in the
Yes.
marketplace business, correct. So, a marketplace facilitator, the states have decided because they're so involved in the e commerce, right? They handle customer service, they process payments, they take returns, oftentimes deal with shipping and receiving, control inventory locations, that
Oh,
kind of
yes.
thing. The states have said, and again, we have 42 states that have marketplace rules now. So Florida and Missouri don't. Missouri's is coming in January. And Kansas, the state that says you have one sale, you have nexus, they don't have marketplace rules, and I don't see anything on the horizon.
What does that mean?
So what it means is if you only sell through a marketplace, so, or even I guess if you sell through a marketplace and your other e-commerce sales.
Yes.
Anything that's conducted through that marketplace, the company, the marketplace company, the facilitator, actually bears the responsibility of collecting and remitting sales tax on your behalf.
Yes. So, an actual fact, marketplace, Facebook is now marketplace as well.
Yeah, but they actually, so they have Facebook Marketplace, but their rules on Marketplace, last I checked anyway, were more about person to person, more like garage sale kind of.
No, I'm not talking about the marketplace. I'm not a Facebook Marketplace, but Facebook.
Okay.
So in Shopify you have a Facebook shop.
Oh,
Yes.
That is new and different.
And then or if you went directly on Facebook, you can sell directly on Facebook. The finance goes through Facebook. You do the shipping still. So it's similar to what Shopify is. So it's really like a shopping platform, but it is a marketplace. So I don't know what the difference.
They're towing the line there.
Yes.
Because Shopify is not yet classified as a facilitator. And I think the key word is facilitation, right? Because if you look through the rules, in California actually recently gave some great clarifying advice on all of this. And they clearly defined marketplace retailer. So that's your customers, your clients.
Yes.
Those are the people who are selling goods. The marketplace facilitator is the platform on which the marketplace retailer sells their goods.
Sells their goods, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So, and it's that facilitator, I think, is the word that's really critical. Just payment processing, I don't think yet is enough to cross that threshold. What it really comes down to, and where Amazon kind of led the parade on this, was the customer service aspects, shipping and receiving, facilitating returns, that kind of thing. And I think that's where these rules are really coming from. But just the act of payment processing, I don't think gets us there quite yet.
Yeah. So here's a new thing happening on Shopify.
Okay.
They are becoming where you can actually place your products, and they will fulfill the products. Yes. Yes.
Well, that's going to be awesome because, and also weird because, so one of the hiccups that happened, so like I said, 43 states out of 45 have Wayfarer, 42 states have Marketplace. What got confusing was one came before the other. And so you had all these retailers who were only selling through Amazon, but because they were awesome, had crossed thresholds. And so they registered and filed. And then all of a sudden Marketplace rules came along and they're like, well, crap, now what do I do? Do I deregister as an individual retailer, et cetera? And that's a thing to pay attention to, is that some states do require dual registration. You have to register as, your own retailer, and then basically file a return periodically that says, here's all my sales, but Amazon did it for me.
Yes. Yes. So they know which one Amazon does and which one you should be doing. But
right.
So does the sales on Amazon and that you do on your retail store, is it a combination?
It is. And not only that, but if you sell things, two things. You either sell like wholesale, let's say you do some B2B work. Your combination of wholesale and retail are your economic nexus threshold. And so that's inclusive of all platforms.
Yes.
And also, if some of the goods that you're selling, say clothing, for instance, in a couple of states, there are 5 or 7 states where clothing is exempt up to a certain dollar amount. Let's say you sell clothes and you also sell, widgets. The combination of things, even though the clothing might be exempt in New York, say, the combination of things are your threshold.
Yes.
And the only time that's not true is if 100% of your sales are wholesale or otherwise exempt somehow.
Yes. Yes.
In which case those don't count against you. But as soon as you have wholesale plus $1 of retail, everything gets grouped together.
Damn. So, okay. And then drop shipping. A lot of people are drop shipping.
Yeah. So drop shipping is fun as an online retailer, and that's basically where a third party is handling delivery to your customers so that you don't have to manage your own inventory. Awesome sauce, right? Makes barriers to entry great for e-commerce folks. And now with Marketplace, that gets a little more complicated. And so if you, let's say you sell all your stuff on Amazon, right? So from a sales tax point of view, you're largely covered on the sales tax compliance side, but your 3PL who's doing your fulfillment for you and doing your drop shipping says, that's cool, but I need a resale certificate on our part of the transaction so that I don't have to charge sales tax to you.
Yes.
And you say, well, I'm not registered in a state. How am I supposed to give you a resale certificate? And so there are new and developing rules around that.
Okay.
So some states like New York say, well, we don't really care about the marketplace part or the drop shipping part. The resale certificate rules are the same. However, in New York, you can provide a resale certificate with a non-New York seller's permit number on it. So you're still covered.
Right? Oh, wow. Yes, yes.
In California, they actually have a special form that says, I'm not registered in California. I only sell on Marketplace, and here's the backup paperwork. And then there are some states that say, so sorry, so sad, either register here for a seller's permit or pay tax to your drop shipper.
Yep.
So you got to take it one state at a time.
So what happens if you are drop shipping and they charge you the tax?
You pay the tax and it eats into your margin on your profit.
Exactly, right. So, okay. I mean, it's just, I've had different scenarios and I really didn't think about it, but that's, So.
Yeah, I mean, some states, and again, though, you would have to be registered as a retailer in the state. When you go to file your sales tax form, some states do have a credit for sales tax previously paid kind of thing. So you like net out the difference. But honestly, it just eats into your margin.
Okay. So what if I've had a scenario where somebody actually by accident charged sales tax, but they're under the limit, they charge sales tax for that, for customer obviously pays it, but for a state that they're not in or not responsible yet. What do they do with the $2.38?
Give it back to your customer.
Okay.
Say, oops, sorry.
Okay.
Because that money's not yours. You're just a conduit.
Yes.
And I mean, $2.50, like, oops, nobody's going to go to jail for that. But $40,000 in tax collected and not remitted, you're going to go to jail for that one.
Exactly. And I mean, you know, most small business owners, they go, oh my Lord, they're going to come after me and they're going to penalize me and blah, 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 So I just wanted to clear that one up. Okay, so the next one is we're watching out for traditional Nexus rules that supersedes Wayfarer.
Yeah, so that's basically what we talked about before, and that's where you get into
the
like
employees
kind of things.
And the inventory.
It's
okay.
Physical presence. So even though you might not have crossed economic thresholds, just make sure that you're,
yes, and where your salespeople are as well.
Correct. Yeah. Now salespeople do get a little bit of a pass, right? Like you can go into a state, depending on the state's rules, anywhere up to like 3 times in a 12-month stretch, and you're still okay.
Yes.
If you go to a trade show, things like that, you're still okay.
Yes.
If you're providing services, though, like computer repair or something like that, that's pretty involved. If you're sending people out into the field for that, that's a nexus creating kind of thing.
So really the bottom line is if you are earning money in another state, that is the rule.
Yes.
You have to pay attention, right? Pay attention, right? So, okay, so we're nearly done with 2020. So for 2021, so we know Florida, whatever's happening with Florida and what's MO again?
So Missouri's the last state that's going to have Wayfarer rules, and they're coming in January.
Okay, they're coming in January. So what else is going to happen?
Yeah, so hopefully further clarification now that we have marketplace rules everywhere. They're going to have to pick apart the whether you're registered or not, who, where the paperwork goes, drop shipment resale. Like I expect some, filtering out of some of those rules and further clarification. The biggest thing we're seeing
Yes.
Is if you have crossed the threshold, register and file, don't wait.
Yeah.
Early on in Wayfarer, you could kind of use Wayfarer as cover to get yourself square with the state. But we've seen 3 states in particular who are coming back after e-com taxpayers register, and they're being extremely aggressive and saying, that's cute. You registered in May, but our threshold started last October. Show me what you got. And those are Massachusetts, Maine, and Wisconsin. And I expect in a post-COVID world, hopefully we're post-COVID at some point, the states have a lot of revenue to make up for, and we expect that aggression to continue.
Yeah. I mean, and you've got to think about, e-commerce has taken off, and so the states are losing that money that would have gone into the coffers to fix bridges and streets and whatever, right?
Put kids through school, all kinds of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So I have one question. So 2021, hopefully we're preparing our taxes already. And then 2021, we're going to be looking back and saying, okay, we did go over the threshold in this state. Hopefully we went over the threshold. That person will be very, very happy. But so in the 2021, they'll go and register and say, hey, I've gone over the threshold.
Yeah.
And they just report and they give them the
Correct.
money. Okay.
Yeah, and again, each state has different rules. Like New York says the transaction immediately following crossing the threshold, you register and pay. And New York can do that because their registration is instantaneous and it's free. You can do it in about 20 minutes on your own on the New York State website. Florida, it's done online, but they take 3 business days. Other states like New Mexico, there's a whole Secretary of State kind of thing you got to go through, and it takes a couple weeks. And and then some states say you have until like the quarter following the quarter in which you cross, right? So every state's a little bit different that way. So yeah, and I'm actually putting together a kind of a cheat sheet for all of that that I'm going to drop for your crew here for this summit. So
brilliant.
Yeah. So we'll have that available. So every state's different. That's why I'm employed.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it is so confusing. I mean, when I saw it the first time, and then everybody so we had transactions and we have the threshold, right? So what's happening with that?
Yeah, so from the Supreme Court ruling, it was 200 transactions and $100,000 in revenue. Some states were some states were or, some states have gone higher, some states are rolling back. Many states have gotten rid of the transaction count, which is awesome for like the really small businesses that are just kind of starting out. Now, again, if you crossed the 200 and you registered and then the state got rid of the 200, well, you're like, great, thanks for that.
Yes.
So then you kind of have a choice of either deregistering or just keeping on, right? So again, that'll be in the cheat sheet too, what the thresholds are. Places like New York, California, and Texas, it's $500,000. So if you've crossed those thresholds, good on ya.
I know, right?
And then places like, I think it's Arizona, they started at 200 and they're rolling back. And I think coming in January, it's going to drop to 100. And then, of course, there's Kansas.
Yeah.
So
everybody's. So the rules, do you think the rules will stay? I mean, taxes, every year there are different rules. They'll be adding, they're taking away. Would the same thing happen with sales tax, that they keep changing every year? What do you think? What's your gut feeling?
If you'd asked me that question prior to June of 2018, I would have said, nothing's changed in 30 years. Why are they going to start now? But I'll tell you, the Supreme Court ruling did not give the states carte blanche to just do whatever they wanted to, but that's exactly what they have done.
Yes.
And until somebody challenges them again,
yes,
this is what it's going to be. And like I said, I hope there's just clarification.
Yes.
And as more and more platforms become marketplaces, that's actually really good for e-commerce.
Yes.
I mean, because if Shopify gets to that level, I mean, that's like everybody, right?
Yes.
I mean, that really covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And that's going to make everybody's lives, I think, a lot
easier. exactly, exactly. Then you don't have to worry about sales tax. So what would you do if you said, okay, so I'm getting close, maybe I should have backup?
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
are
So
apps, right? There are two apps.
yeah. So there's more than two, but in I think the most common and sort of the
Yeah.
household names and the sort of low cost opportunities for those starting out, Taxstar and Avalara. But there's Vertex and Sabrix, and I think E&Y has one,
Yes.
PwC has one. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Oh.
options, and even QuickBooks Online now has
Oh,
some sales
yes.
tax
Yes.
functionality built into it, a lot like Shopify.
Yes.
So, depending on your sales volume, your own time, patience, and expertise, like there's a long way you can go before
Yes.
paying a lot for like an
Yes.
add-on to your accounting software.
Exactly.
But honestly, if you can handle it in your margins, if you can handle it in your business, profit first, right? But
Yes.
then definitely look to somebody like Taxstar, Avalara, either just for the filing part, just for the monthly rate files, or if your volume is really ticking up and you're selling into places that have state and local complications like Texas, New York, Colorado, having something that in real time can do the calculations of the tax for you is definitely the direction to go. That top tier of service, though, really kicks in around $1 million in annual revenue,
Okay.
because that's where the cost benefit really kicks in of like it's worth paying
Yeah.
for. And it's also really the only time at which those platforms want to talk to you.
Exactly. So, I mean, I know in Shopify they have the reporting, so you can quickly see your reporting on your sales tax and not on your sales tax, but also on where you're selling in each state. So,
Okay,
so yes, I mean they're evolving all the time. I wrote the
great.
book, and,
I
and
know you did.
I've updated the book, and it's going into print in about 2 weeks. I can actually update it already. So,
That's
so
fantastic.
it's just it's an ongoing thing. But the cool part about it is that they are listening to the customers, and that they're updating these things to make things easier for people that have e-commerce stores. Um, so what? Let me see. I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
So, um, so you said, when should they? We already talked about when they should use TaxJar and
Uh-huh.
Avalara. And if you have any questions about sales tax, you can join Amy's sales tax yogi group, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sales tax
And
yogis.
and
Yeah.
then also she's in my group as well, so you can ask any questions. That is besides the virtual e-commerce group. This is my e-commerce success group. That
Yeah. Just make sure to tag me so that it actually pops up and I see
exactly,
it. Yeah.
exactly, yes. So you always got to tag, because whatever question you ask, it'll pop up for Amy. And because there
Yeah.
are always questions, and I know that you have no problem talking to people and helping them with their
Yeah.
sales. The amount of times I go, Amy, they need to know more about. I
Yeah.
can explain it. I understand income tax. I understand sales tax. It is just more complicated than what I've ever learned. So,
Sure.
and you are in the trenches every single day,
Every
right? And
day.
so, tell me about one example of a really complicated situation. And I'm thinking about like the bottles. There was the bottle thing.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a little bit of a different tax type with the recycling fees and all that
That's
fun
right.
stuff
Yes.
because, oh my gosh, talk about a lack of standardization and a lack of transparency and inconsistency across the board. No, I would honestly say one of the things so there are two clients right now that kind of pop to mind. One we've touched on with the drop shipping, and then the intricacies between direct to consumer versus the marketplace platform sales and the paperwork required to support resale certificates with your drop shipper. So that's pretty complicated. And then, four-party drop shipping scenarios get messy very
Yes.
quickly. And then we have a client recently who used to be in the live event space and then COVID. And so they quickly pivoted, very beautifully pivoted, and went to online streaming. And then the challenge that they're having is, they're registered in like 25, 27 states or something where live events are subject to sales tax.
Oh.
And then when they transitioned over to streaming, there are like 7 of those states where they were filing for live events where they no longer need to, but then another 7 or so states where live events aren't taxable, but streaming is. So in addition to pivoting their business, they're also having to pivot their back end and their
Yes.
understanding of that kind of stuff for their
Yes.
business.
Yes.
And so that's where, my Facebook group goes a long way, and I'm willing to answer a lot of questions and, a half-hour consult here and there. But when it gets to that level, then I actually kind of transition you over to the boutique firm that I work with, and you get the full weight and and
Yes.
intelligence behind you of the firm that I work with.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, I was talking to Joey, the trademark lawyer, and I said to him, I always advise people going into business, pay an hour for a business lawyer. Just the hour, you will learn so much. And that's the same with sales tax, Just make sure that your foundation is right and when you have to make that next step. Because as Donna said from the puzzle piece, she said, if you don't create your backup, then you get into trouble, right? You seriously get into trouble. So even if you're small, you don't know when you're exploding. I mean, she exploded like from being on TV, like boom, she was out of the blocks, and
her product is awesome. I love her puzzles.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But she, as you said, she was not ready. COVID happened. She just let somebody go and stayed home, and she had like 300 orders one day, right? And it was just continuing. So we were talking about what would you do if you ever had to start again, and she said, make sure that your backup, that you have a plan, and your plan is in place. If things should go this way, this is what you need to do, and one of them is actually telling your employees what's happening and having people in place that can come in and help you. But coming back to sales tax, I think staying on top of what's going on, doing some reading, doing a little bit of research, and if you're in my workshop, then you'll also know what's going on because I keep on top of it. But seriously stay on top of it, because you don't know when these things happen. And I do know that TaxJar and Valera have wonderful blogs. I mean, they are always they're always talking about what's happening, what's coming up, and what's going to go on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you're in business, you've got to stay on top of things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
it's nice for me having an expert like you with Shopify, because oftentimes we have sales tax clients that ask us to help set up their back end of Shopify. I'm like, ooh, I know a person. Hold on.
I know a lady, right? I used to say, I know a guy, but I know a lady, I know somebody.
I know somebody, yeah.
I know this guy. But anyway, so thank you so much for popping in and being here, answering, and hopefully answering questions straight after this. You can put them in the comments. Amy will be here to answer, or I will make sure she's here to answer. And we'll have all Amy's information probably either in the comments or above in the description, and we have it on the Virtual Summit landing page, website page as well, if you want to contact Amy for any questions. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's well worth paying for it as well.
I'm here for you, always.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Right.
I really appreciate it. And I need to just finish. We are done. Woohoo!
Yay!